While Hyperloop may take all the headlines, it is the rail infrastructure and the railways that are keeping the UAE and Saudi Arabia on track and moving the countries forwards. My name is Oscar Rousseau. You're listening to the latest episode of the Construction Week Viewpoint podcast, and I'm joined in the studio by Jack Ball. Jack, it's great to have you here.
Oscar, great to be here, mate. Thank you so much for having me back again.
No problem. So obviously we're talking about rail infrastructure today, and as I said in the introduction, Hyperloop we've spoken a lot about because it seems to have taken all of the plaudits, rightly so, because it's an exciting project, it's an innovative technology, but rail infrastructure is an extremely cost-effective method for traveling and transporting goods and people from kind of short distances and of course over long distances as well. As we've seen, transport is a vital pillar of countries' economies, and ensuring that you have a sound transport network, especially rail networks, can be extremely important as countries such as Saudi Arabia and the UAE move forwards with their economic plans. Now, we've also seen as well that kind of road congestion is a serious problem in the world's biggest cities, and of course, the Middle East is no different. Would you say that's fair?
I would say that's definitely fair. Coming from Dubai standpoint, you and I live in Dubai, and obviously road congestion here can be quite serious, and that is not just a problem in the UAE. That is something that other countries in the region are definitely facing, and again, rail and particularly metro transport is a crucial part of tackling that problem.
And of course, I think there was a report that came out which said that motorists in Dubai, for example, spent an average of 29 hours in traffic last year. Now, this figure is a lot lower than the time that drivers in London or Paris or New York or even Bangkok, for that matter, were stuck in congestion. This is according to a study by INREX. But still, like you mentioned, the roads are congested, and building railways, building metro stations and metro lines can help alleviate that pressure and also provide, because they're a cost-effective mode of transporting people around, it becomes incredibly efficient. So let's take it. I think the best way to do this is to go from one country to another. So for the UAE, for example, there are a number of different rail projects underway at the moment, one which is the Etihad Rail project. Now, US engineering firm Jacobs earlier in July said it had been selected to work on the Etihad project for which it will provide critical, technical and program consulting services for the freight and passenger railway network. The firm will also deliver engineering and design services for the network, in addition to reviewing and providing critical oversight for detailed designs, which will be prepared by design and build contractors. And it looks like by the end of December 2021, the UAE will have a connection between Saudi Arabia via rail. So that's going to be a really exciting project. But it's not the only one. It's not the only one. We've got, of course, Route 2020.
Big one.
The extension of the Dubai Metro's Red Line, which is being built in preparation for Expo 2020, which Construction Week had the pleasure of visiting over the summer. Now, Route 2020 is kind of steadily advancing as it seeks to connect the Expo site. In July, RTA revealed that tunnelling work spanning 3.2 kilometres at depth ranging from, I think, 12 metres to over 30 metres had been completed for the project. I believe work on the viaducts for the metro now are due to finish in November this year, Jack, and it means we're going to be seeing the project completed by maybe July 2019. That's the figure that's floating around at the moment, with trial runs due to start in February 2020, providing plenty of time to have the metro up and running before Expo kicks into gear in October. So that's a really exciting project in the UAE, in addition to the Etihad Rail project. But of course, Saudi Arabia has plenty of projects as well.
Absolutely. I think Saudi, particularly, I think the crown jewel in Saudi's infrastructure plans is obviously the Saudi Riyadh Metro Rail project. This is a multi-billion-dollar, it's a huge project, and it involves, I think, pretty much all of the major private sector players in the kind of consultancy engineering space. I was talking when I was back in London, talking to the big boys like Bechtel, and they've all been so excited for the past 3 or 4 years, ever since it was announced. And again, it's part of a wider pattern of rail development in the region. And it broke ground in April 2014. So yeah, again, only just over 4 years ago that it broke ground. And again, arguably, I would say one of the most important projects currently being built in the country and also the region. And again, according to a Knight Frank June 2018 report, Oscar, it was titled The Impact of New Infrastructure on Real Estate as well. So looking at how it's going to impact the real estate market.
I mean, it's not just the real estate market there. Sorry, Jack, to interject, but the metro, because Riyadh, and correct me if I'm wrong, they don't have a metro, which is why they're building this metro line. The impact transcends real estate. The social impact or the socioeconomic impact is difficult to calculate, I think.
No, absolutely. And it's all about favouring or building an environment that strengthens the investment appetite in the non-oil sector as well. It all ties into that,
Of course, because it goes back to the point that I was talking about before. It allows people to get around work very easily and mitigate any effects of congestion as well. Now, I think there are 6 metro lines being built for Riyadh Metro. Is that correct?
Yep, 6. The longest being the Orange Line, which we're looking at about a 40.7 kilometre line.
Right.
And that's followed closely by the Blue Line, 38 kilometres, and not far behind the Yellow Line at 29.6. And all the others kind of range between kind of 12 and 25, the kind of last kind of 3.
Yeah, all colour coded, which seems like a very sensible way of doing
London
things.
did the same thing.
Well, exactly.
And I think, Saudi is maybe following suit.
It makes it incredibly, I've travelled around other cities in Europe and South America, and you look at the metro station, it's very difficult to plot your path around when they're not colour coded. So
the New York one is the New York one. I got lost on that many times.
Infamously difficult to navigate around.
But yeah, again, upon completion, this metro network, in Riyadh will link Riyadh's King Khalid International Airport and the King Abdullah Financial Center, as well as and it will also connect universities and other mass transport systems in the cities. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's a really important project, but it's not the only one underway at the moment. You've got the Haramain, which is it's going to be the fastest high-speed rail network in the Middle East. That's being built in Saudi Arabia. I think it's going to cover speeds of 300 kilometers per hour, and it spans 450 kilometers. So it's a really, really big project, really big high-speed rail network, which I imagine will be for intercity travel rather than the Riyadh Metro, which is inner city. Well, no, intercity, city-to-city transport. Right. Anyway, I messed my words up, but
all good.
It will travel, I think 60 million passengers will be able to travel on the rail network when it reaches full capacity. So that is a really, really exciting project as well. But you've got Kuwait and Bahrain as well, which are doing some exciting work in the space as well, although on a lesser scale to Saudi Arabia and the UAE.
No, absolutely. Kuwait's planning a 7 billion metro rail project, and it's been kind of mired a little bit. It's kind of slowed down ever since it was announced, but it was actually confirmed last September that feasibility studies for the project, as well as tender processes for public bidding, have been completed last September, which is very positive. And also plans at that time have been put in place for talks with banks and investors. So again, it's really building steam. The project is due to be completed over 5 phases, Oscar, and is expected to include 68 stations, 60 of which will be underground.
60% of which, I believe.
Yeah, 60% of the 68 will be underground, correct, yeah.
Okay.
And again, it's very similar vein to other projects in the region. It's hoped to address the growing issue of congestion, we talked about that, and create a better environment for growth in commercial, business, industrial and residential markets. So ticking all those boxes.
Which actually, you can see the commonality between all of the metro projects and the rail projects across the Middle East that we've just discussed. It's about connecting the commercial, residential and industrial sectors together, supporting the movement of goods and people, and also supporting the economy as well. So I think it's very exciting as well.
There's also sorry, Oscar. There's also a railway project as well. So not metro,
of course.
In Kuwait, it's 111 kilometers, and again, it hopes to connect Kuwait with the rest of the Gulf region. And the first phase of the project is set to cost $3 billion US. And it will create a line between Nuweiba on the Saudi border and a 153 kilometer line linking Kuwait City with Bubiyan port. So all very positive.
All very exciting. I think it was only reported in the last couple of weeks that work had started on that project as well. So that would be an exciting one to look for as well. You mentioned at the beginning that plans for Kuwait's metro project had slowed down a little bit. Now that seems to be the case with Bahrain as well. Bahrain's metro has the progress has slowed a little bit, which was reported by a range of different publications. It is reportedly said that it will not connect its network to the neighbouring state Saudi Arabia until at least 2023, but work on Bahrain's long-promised light rail system, according to a separate article by Arabian Business, has mentioned that the project could likely start in Q3 2019, as it is currently seeking bids for construction. Now, according to Abdul Rahman Al Janani, he's an official from the Bahrain Transport Ministry, the country may look to the private sector to partially fund the ambitious project. It's believed to cost between $1 billion and $2 billion, which is exciting. So moving to the private sector as well, I think, is an interesting issue. We've seen state-run projects looking to participate with the private sector, and PPP models have become very in vogue at the moment, would you say?
I think not only in vogue, but I think they are critical. I think as we've seen over the past 10 years, and particularly, with the fall of the oil price, budgets are being squeezed, and we need to do, or these kind of projects need to do a lot more with maybe a lot less money, and need to get that expertise from the private sector and incorporate it. And the private sector are very good actually at working together as a part of a larger team, and they know how to run projects effectively, safely, at budget, at cost, and also as I said before, safety is paramount, and making sure they get people from A to B.
Exactly, and I think it'd be a really exciting time to see closer collaboration between the two moving forwards. But what's fundamentally true is that these projects are crucial to the social fabric of countries such as Saudi Arabia, such as the UAE. And while it's been mentioned that certainly in Saudi Arabia, there's been talk about people in Riyadh don't really have the experience of using public transport before. So some officials have said that it may take people a little bit of time to get used to not traveling in their cars and using public transport instead. And of course, the other benefit of public transport that we've not alluded to is the fact that it mitigates potential climate change and climate emissions. For example, when you have lots of cars on the road and it's congested, that creates a lot of fumes. Using public transport is a much more kind of like resource and climate friendly way of travel. So that's another benefit as well to these projects. But I think fundamentally the PPP angle is one that's going to be very interesting moving forward, certainly in Bahrain.
No, absolutely. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how, as you mentioned before, how people adapt to this, because it's a major lifestyle change. Instead of you're so used to hopping in your car to get from A to B, I think hopping on an air-conditioned metro, it probably won't take them long to realize that it might save people time and money in the long run. Instead of jumping, and also the health benefits, as you mentioned as well. Urban pollution, is a problem that many countries, including London, are facing. So it's going to be interesting to see how everyone adapts. But I think I hope it will be faster than people think. It'll
be exciting as well. And I think the knock-on effect of that as well, when we talk about the ability that a transport network has to stitch a country together and boost the economy, is that when you've got a booming economy or an economy that's going from strength to strength, that's only going to support the contractors and developers in the Middle East that look to build new projects as well. So exciting stuff all around, Jack. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Well, you've been listening to the Construction Week Viewpoint podcast. Today, we've been talking about rail infrastructure, which clearly seems on track in the Middle East. If there are other topics that you would like Jack, myself, and the entire CW team to cover, please do get in touch with us. Until then, thank you very much for listening, and goodbye.
Bye.